The American Bar Association recently discovered that 81% of United States lawyers are white and 4.5% of lawyers are Black. Affirmative action is a direct way to tackle such disparities. Affirmative action has been researched and debated for decades by many different politicians and researchers, and my opinions have been formed by reviewing such legislation and by looking at the research that has been done. Lack of diversity is detrimental to society as it contributes to the lack of representation and inclusion. Having affirmative action be made mandatory in public universities would ensure equal opportunities for students of all races, genders, and ethnicities. Today, we will be discussing the general concept of affirmative action, why we need it, and lastly, how it would help. First, for some context, let's talk about what affirmative action really is. Affirmative action and quotas are two terms that are used interchangeably, as they essentially mean the same thing. And according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, affirmative action is the practice of taking positive steps towards increasing representation of minorities by favoring individuals that are often subject to discrimination. So how would this work? Admissions quotas would require a certain percentage of minorities and a certain percentage of non-minorities to be accepted into a certain university. Minorities include women, people of color, people with disabilities, and immigrants. J. Edward Kello is a University of Georgia administrator, and in his book titled Understanding Affirmative Action Politics, he states that affirmative action, regardless of a specific form, is primarily a policy intended to promote the redistribution of opportunity. And according to Judy Kermsey, the former affirmative action officer at Connecticut College, the immediate response of a lot of anti-quota people is to say, well, somebody shouldn't be admitted into a university or receive something just because of their minority status. But quotas don't exactly work that way. Contrary to popular belief, quotas are not meant to pity minorities. They are simply meant to provide them with opportunities that they are often shielded from. Now that we've looked at what affirmative action is, let's talk about why we need it. Affirmative action being a part of university admissions would increase university diversity and therefore diversity in the workforce. Poverty is a big reason that people do not pursue higher education, and because of systemic racism, a lot of low-income students are people of color. So quotas would help bridge the gap between minorities and non-minorities pursuing higher education. Having more representation in our medical schools, dental schools, and other forms of grad schools would increase the diversity in those professions. And according to the American Dental Association, 70.2% of dentists in the United States are non-Hispanic white people. And 5.7% of doctors in the United States are Black. BlackHealthMatters.com is a disease and health management site, and they say does not only the socioeconomic status of students, but also admission standards affect minority entrance into schools like dental school. These statistics are not a result of incapability or unworthiness. They are a result of racism, classism, and misogyny. Lastly, let's talk about how affirmative action would help. Julie J. Park, in her 2013 Rutgers University Press published book titled When Diversity Drops, says that diverse student bodies lead to enhanced civic interest, bias reduction, critical thinking, interracial friendship, and an overall better college experience. She says that a lot of students grow up in segregated environments, and college is the first time that they are exposed to a lot of diversity. So we need to keep pushing towards increased diversity. Amaka Okechukwu has a PhD in sociology from NYU, and in her book titled To Fulfill These Rights, she says that student protesters have been resisting attacks on affirmative action by occupying campus spaces, barging in on Board of Trustees meetings, and even more. This shows how important affirmative action is to students. As you can see, affirmative action in university admissions is a step towards a more inclusive society. Having affirmative action made mandatory in public universities would ensure equal opportunities to students of all genders, races, and ethnicities. We need affirmative action for diversity and inclusion. Quotas are necessary as they tackle the battle of dismantling systemic inequalities minorities face. We have a diverse nation, and affirmative action is the way to promote it. Thank you.